Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're here for another episode of Super Podcast Bros. We got a special guest with us here today.
Of who?
The Super Podcast Bros.
Are you still sticking with that name?
Maybe not for today because we got Super Podcast Dad on the mic with us today.
Say hello, Super Podcast Dad.
Good evening.
So we've got the original recipe Chud here to help us judge our choices for some DCU fan casting for this new James Gunn era.
We thought it was apt to invite Podcast Dad today. He is the one that got us into nerddom, geekdom.
For better or for worse.
But more than anything, this has been a huge week for Superman. And Superman is, I think, Podcast Dad, speak for yourself, your favourite character, the character that you used to introduce us to comic books and superheroes. Tell us a little bit about your journey with Superman as a character.
So I can't give too much away because then you'll know my age, but let's say I've been following Superman for more than 40 years. I won't be pushed beyond that. For when I was a little kid, always my favourite superhero, always rooting for him all of the time. Massive excitement for me back in the 70s when I heard there was going to be a Superman the movie. I've seen all of the Superman movies since then, so I'm kind of looking forward to James Gunn's take on this, so fingers crossed.
And how many Superman movies have there been? There have been some highlights, there's definitely some lowlights. Am I right in saying that everyone's favourite Superman movie is also your favourite Superman movie? Superman 2?
Superman 2 is pretty awesome, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of liked Man of Steel, but the ending, the killing bit...
Fair.
Yeah. We've spoken about that at length, and we've done a few Superman-centric episodes, but with the leaks that have come out this week, we couldn't let this opportunity go amiss to get you involved. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Superman, and then we're going to do our cast-off episode, or second episode of a cast-off. So, let's speak about it. So, we've seen the leaks come through. We've seen the suit. First and foremost, what did you think of the suit?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, although I am a big Superman fan, I don't get mega upset if he doesn't have red trunks on or if there isn't an S on the back of the cape. This is interesting. Classic Superman from top to bottom, but I kind of take on the Kingdom Come S.
Yeah.
So it's intriguing that that's what they've gone for. So it'll be interesting to see how the movie goes. I would just say I assume, based on the photographs that we've seen, there's going to be a bit of a post-editing kind of effect on the suit. It doesn't look quite as super as I might have expected it to.
Maybe a few sizes too big. Look, you know when your mum or your dad buys you some clothes that you can grow into. It's kind of what I'm getting to at the moment.
I like it because whenever there's leaked behind the scenes stuff of Marvel movies, it's almost you can't recognize what the suit is going to be, and I think this way, like the end of Spider-Man: Far From Home. Everyone really likes that. They say it looks really good. They like the way this suit looks. I think it looks rubbery and it's clear it's not really all there.
Yeah.
I think with this, whatever they do to it in post, there's a clear design and there's a whole suit. Like, I like the way the suit looks anyway. Some of the leak footage, some of the leak scenes, it looks a bit loose on the midsection, but that means everything we see is going to be, realistic movements. The suit's going to look good on camera, even with all the visual effects they're going to add after it. I'm not necessarily a massive Trunks fan. Like, this is straight up, like you said, Dad, like classic Trunks. It's even got the belt loops. I think that, suits evolve over time, as we've seen with a lot of superhero movies. So I'd like to see where it goes. But I love the paneling. I love the line detail in it. It just adds something extra to it.
That's true.
Without having to slap stuff on top. I think with Henry Cavill's one, they had loads of intricacies in the knitting of it. And I thought, yeah, that's cool, but you can't really see in the movie. But also, like those black stripes he had on his waist instead of a belt and trunks. I think if you're not going to do trunks,
Just
do a
don't
cool
do-
belt.
Yeah.
But don't do neither, because then it just looks like he's wearing a
It's
massive...
a leotard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not...
Synchronized swimming.
I really like it, and I love the collar. Love the collar, love the hair.
Yeah. Well, let's talk hair.
Oh.
Let's talk the cowlick. So I don't know if you've seen this image, Dad, but there's that's the same actor, believe it or not.
Oh wow.
Super perm.
So so I think what he's done is there was a famous video of Christopher Reeves doing the admitting that he was Superman thing. So he's gone from Clark Kent to Superman and how his body posture changes. And then there were some images going around about how when he's in Clark Kent form, Superman kind of protrudes his lower jaw. It kind of looks like that's what he's doing here. Because do you think there's a bit too much of a change between the two hairstyles there? You got a perm and then a cowlick. Is he when he goes into that phone booth? Is he also bringing a bit of hair pomade?
I mean, I haven't seen this image before. It's very unlike any Clark Kent I've seen before in terms of the hairstyle.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what to say. I've never seen a Clark Kent that looks like that.
It's really dorky, isn't it? Like
it is,
more dorky than anything.
I love the tie. I love the top button's not done up. The tie skewiff.
Yeah, that's very Clark Kent. I like that.
Even the lean. So I saw the clip of when they were rehearsing this Clark Kent scene. He's dodging all the pedestrians. And I think I spoke to you about this a couple of days ago. You said, I hope they don't make him too... what was the word you used? Wimpy?
Nerdy, wimpy.
Yeah.
Superman hasn't been like that in the comics for like more than probably 30 years now.
Yeah.
And it was great for the time of Christopher Reeves, and Christopher Reeves was amazing at that Clark Superman switch. I'm not really sure that's going to fly in today's world, and certainly DC decided a long time ago that
they didn't think it would go either.
Had to be like an ace reporter, a little bit of adventure in him, like a decent, upstanding human being himself. Because in one way, in today's world, if you acted like Clark Kent, you would really stick out. So
yeah. You'd get noticed more. And maybe that's a story detail, because I believe that, well, just Judah will know how much I value earnestness in Superman movies and all superhero movies, really. And maybe that's something that James Gunn's trying to bring back. Maybe he's trying to bring back that sort of innocence that the 70s had, and that original Superman series had, the Golden Age Superman maybe had. And this looks very, very comic, old school comic, accurate and true to the feelings of the comics. I don't know what you're thinking, Pud.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. It's I think the problem is with Superman, people like to overcook and overcomplicate how it needs to be. I think I like it. I'm excited to see how they'll characterize it. But certainly, like you said, Dad, recently it's been a bit light on a lot of the Clark Kent stuff, and especially, like you said, about him being quite dorky and awkward. So I hope he's kind of just like maybe just an introverted nice guy, and then that way there's a very clear dichotomy between Clark and Superman. But even looking at their faces, bro, like it looks like a Superman, he's clenching his jaw the whole time and is very almost slack jawed as Clark. So
he's mewing as Superman, isn't he? Mm-hmm. He's got that look there. Then potential story details come out. So we're guessing by the casting from this casting news that's come out. We're gonna kind of do like an adaptation of Superman versus the Elite, maybe a little bit of Kingdom Come Superman with the S. I have no idea who some of those villains are. I didn't know who they were even when they were cast. But that there is apparently Rick Flag.
Okay,
so it looks like they've recast the Suicide Squad that even James Gunn had charge of, which I find interesting. Probably doesn't bode well for some of the characters we kind of enjoyed so far.
I think my last thought on the suit is the S with this newer thing of, it's not an S, it's a symbol, it's a Kryptonian symbol. That passes a lot better as a symbol from a different alphabet
Okay.
than as an S. I think if you were just looking at that in isolation, you knew nothing about Superman, that's pretty much unidentifiable as an S. It's kind of relying on what we already know. It pretty much looks like a kind of curved wide strip and a red border all
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
So I mean, if that's what they're going for, I think I really like it. But I don't want to speculate too much because there's been so much casting news about
So much.
all the people that are going to be in this. And they've not given much away. So I don't want to lean too heavy into thinking it will be the Elite and then just get absolutely duped when the movie comes
Yeah.
out. So
Because another casting choice that's come out, which is definitely confirmed now, is we do have a Mr. Terrific. That's I didn't really know if you could go more or less comic accurate with Mr. Terrific than it is in the comics, but they've gone literally straight off the panels there, haven't they?
even the mask, a real mask.
A real mask, yeah. And Judah has also said that it looks like Crypto the Superdog looks like he's going to feature as well. So he's gone full wacky James Gunn. I think you need to cut on give him some credit for that.
Yeah, he's pulled from lots of different places and lots of different sources, it would seem. Because I think the rumour is that's the Authority, isn't it, rather than the Elite that they've kind of got in there, but maybe thinking of the Authority as the role that the Elite played.
Perhaps, yeah.
So interesting, yeah.
So, we spoke about castings, we spoke about what things are coming up. Now it's your chance, Dad. So, we do a cast-off series of episodes, which is where me and Judah have come up with casting decisions, fan casts for certain characters, but you have the power to decide about who wins. So, at the moment in this series, it is 1-0 to me. But Judah did phone in the last episode. Like when we were doing some X-Men castings, I think some Marvel castings, he did actually just give up. So I've got a feeling he's got something up his sleeve today because I've struggled with a few of these. So me and Judah, we're gonna go through some characters that haven't been cast so far.
Okay.
And so these will be characters from the Superman universe. We'll go through a little bit about the character, and then we'll tell you our decisions and why we think they'll fit the part. Does that sound alright?
Yeah, let's go for it.
You pick who wins out of the two of us. We'll keep a score and then we'll go from there. So before we'd start with, we've got a Superman.
Will either of you be scarred if you don't win though? Because this could be like a parenting low point for me.
Well, we put in third brother last time, and I think he lost it. Well, he hasn't been back since because Judah was so upset with his decision. I think it was that.
I do have a serious point to prove today.
Okay.
So we've got a Superman. We have a Crypto the Superdog, apparently. We don't have... we've got a Supergirl, but we don't have a Superboy.
Okay.
Now this one, I think it's actually quite a difficult one to start off with because there are so many different versions of Superboy. We've got Kid Superman. We've got the clone of Lex Luthor and Superman. The death of Superman, Superboy. And then we've also got that Superboy Prime. And Son of Superman, now I think about it. So I think there's a lot of different directions that either me or Judah could have gone with this one. But Judah, do you want to get us started with your Superboy pick?
So, my Superboy pick is Hero Fiennes Tiffin. So, he is the nephew of Rafe Fiennes.
Oh.
And so, this
thespian
is what he looks like. And so he's 26, but he mainly plays roles of teenagers. And I thought, my thinking is he can either play a slightly older Jonathan Kent or a Connor Kent. He's a great actor. He can do many accents, especially American ones. And I thought he could pass as someone who reasonably looks like the Superman cast in David Corenswet. So if you go the clone route, he's half of Superman, so he looks reasonably like him. If you go the Sun route, again half of Superman, could pass as him in my eyes. So he is about, I think he's 6 foot, 6'1".
Okay.
He's not short. He's quite built. He's been taking on some more adult roles recently. He was in he wasn't in the Woman King. I think he was in the Woman King or something else. But basically, yeah. So he's built. He can put on mass very well to play an older version, or he can go back to being slightly slimmer and trim to be a younger version as well. So that's my casting out there. What have you got?
I went with there was good reason for me choosing him other than the meta reason, which is he's already technically played the younger version of Superman already. In a weird way, in a meta way. But also, I think he'll be good at is doing any version of Superman. So I think he looks enough like David Corenswet that he could get away with being a younger version of him, being his son, being a partial clone of him. But also, he can play the different characters that come with the character types that come with those different characters. So he can play the more innocent, learning his way in the world version of Jonathan Kent. He could also do the more rogue, I'm gonna be the bad boy kind of clone version of Superman as well. I've gone with someone called Asher Angel. Now you don't recognise the name, but you'll recognise the face because he played Shazam, who, in a weird way, is just the young version of Captain Marvel. And obviously, in that movie, he was able to play someone who's discovered incredible power and is dealing with youth at the same time as that, and was also able to be a bit of a rogue and also have to know when responsibility is calling him. And yeah, I think he looks enough like David Corenswet. I don't know, but that would have been my pick there, Asher Angel.
Okay. So I obviously know Asher Angel a bit from the Shazam movie. Don't know Judy, your guy. But I'm going to award a draw for this one, mainly because I feel like Judy's going to kill me and or never speak to me again. So I'm going to award an honourable draw for this first one. Either could do it.
So is that because he's sat slightly closer to you right now?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm in punching distance.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, but don't be afraid to make enemies in this, because that means if you know down the line when you do pick one of my picks, fingers crossed, that I'll feel it more. I'll appreciate it more. But okay, because I didn't consider him. I didn't consider any recasts from the old DC movies. Not to rag on your pick, but no, but I think it's good because he actually is also a teenager, but he's like 19, 20, so we could do either
younger and
yeah.
I don't think he's my last older DC recast actually.
Okay.
Only because I really like one person, but I'm still actually I'm gonna know about that one anyway. So we know Mr. Terrific's in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some other more, I was gonna call them B-list, but I think even Mr. Terrific would call himself a C-list ally of Superman. So we've got another one here. We've gone with Vixen. So we've got to cast a Vixen here. So obviously Vixen being the fierce Beast Boy knockoff really. And she was linked via Superman. How? I can't really remember how the characters got linked, but was it something to do with Star Labs?
Well, actually, Vixen's first appearance, which I do own.
Oh, there we go.
Was in an episode of Action Comics. So,
oh, right, okay.
And she's on the cover, and Superman flies down and says something along the lines of, "Who is this new woman? Is she friend or foe?"
Oh wow, classic.
And her amulet is kind of glowing, so it kind of invites you to dive inside. So I suppose the link is that's where she first appeared.
Okay. So my pick for Vixen, I'm not sure you've actually ever seen her in anything, but she's Jamaican British. She pulls off a lot of hairstyles, especially short hair, which I think is important. And I think she's able to do the kind of fierce, aloof kind of character that Vixen has sometimes been portrayed as. So this is Jodie Turner-Smith. Oh, you like that one? Okay,
That's
cool.
a good pick.
So,
Can I just be clear, as a much older man in the room, that it was Judah that made that noise?
So I meant that as in that's a good pick, not as in.
But yeah, she's done some movies I like called like Queen and Slim. She was in Queen and Slim, where I've got mixed feelings about the movie itself, but her within that, I feel like she could translate a lot of the characters she did within that to Vixen quite easily, and I think she can do the physicality of the role as well.
Okay, so I did a little background research into Vixen. Obviously, her power works on drawing on the abilities of all animals.
Yeah.
And so she is from the fictional country, I think it's called Zambezi. And so
I love when DC does that.
yeah,
They come up a country, but you know full well what country they based it off.
well, unfortunately, it's been depicted as both in West Africa, but more often in the shadow of Kilimanjaro. So somewhere in East Africa.
Okay.
And the Zambezi River runs through Zimbabwe and Zambia. So my thinking is we're looking for an East African woman, and that would make sense because obviously if she's meant to be from a tribe and moves to America, and if she's got experience with most of these animals, the places she'd find most of these animals would be in East Africa.
Yeah.
So I have gone with a young lady called Imani Hakim. And so I'm guessing purely off the name and the Arab influence, she is East African. You might not remember her, but she'll look familiar
She does look familiar.
because she is the little sister from Everybody Hates Chris. She is 30 on the dot.
Okay.
So the same age as David Corenswet. And if you were looking for youngish but experienced enough superheroes, I think that's a good age. She's relatively tall for a woman, so I think that in terms of the physicality of it, she's not overly slim, she's not overly filled. She can kind of pass as that athletic build, and obviously with a workout routine, all these characters do.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought you've got, in terms of that representation of what the character's roots are supposed to be, but also she's not in that much these days. So she has quite a free schedule to appear, not only the movies, but obviously James Gunn has expressed interest in expanding the media into video games and TV shows.
True.
Her timetable is probably quite freed up to engage in all of those as well.
Okay.
So road pick.
You are, yeah.
Well, Judah was like a steam train.
Yeah.
Right? Until we got to the bit where he said she hasn't really got much work, which is slightly worrying.
She does still act, but she's not in multiple things a year.
I do have to hold my hands up and say Jodie Cherner-Smith isn't in many movies because she's modelling and fashion designing and she's doing a lot.
Well, Vixen is also supposed to be a model, so that could track as well.
Yeah, I know.
I think for this one, I'm going to come down on the side of Judah because he really did his research.
Yeah, some love went into
It
that.
kind of felt like, that kind of effort needs to be rewarded. So I'm going to give this round to Judah.
I'll take that.
I've got to throw my
Thank you
hands
very
up.
much.
I've got to throw my hands up and yeah, I've got to come back strong now. Because let's put some thought into this one. We need another one. We need another ally of Superman. And this is my personal favourite ally of Superman because he is very minor, but I think his origin's really cool. And he was definitely a product of the time. Steel. So John Henry Irons, isn't it?
Yep.
The character who, after the death of Superman, saw the need for a Superman type character to step up and become the guardian of Metropolis. Yep. And so he's slightly more grungy Iron Man, really. Suit of armour, made up completely out of steel, funny enough, and he carries around just a huge hammer, as well as having jetpacks on his feet. So, I love Steel as a character. Who have you got, Jude?
So I have gone with of Boys in the Hood and the Best Man fame, 90s hero Morris Chestnut.
He came across my mind so much, but I've used him so often in this series.
So Morris Chestnut is, if you said to me, we're looking for a bold, big black guy,
Yeah.
first person that pops in my head. So this is Morris Chestnut. Obviously the actor doesn't have to be naturally bald. He can just shave his head, but he's massive, absolute unit of a bloke, and he's 48, which I think is I always picture Steel as being older than Superman, but still inspired by him. But he's got a very much experienced and grizzled head on his shoulders. Morris Chestnut, he has quite, I would say, a neutral-ish accent as well as Americans go. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint where he was from. And I think Steel is from Boston or somewhere like that.
I thought he was from Metropolis.
Is he?
I don't know, but
I might be thinking of the Steel movie with Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's my pick. Just in terms of aesthetics, that's pretty much in my head the closest I could get, as well as it being a recognisable actor.
I've done a similar thing to you, Jude, which is I forgot that people can just shave their hair. So I only thought of the biggest, blackest, boldest people you can possibly think of.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you, I agree. I think Steel should be slightly older than Superman to prove that Superman can still inspire people of all ages.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought it was important that, to me, all right, so this is where I'm going to have to put the gloves on, all right?
Okay.
Morris Chestnut, to me, is too pruned.
Right.
That's why I leaned away from him. So he's always played the CEO, he's always played the lawyer, he's always played the doctor, middle class black America guy.
Okay.
Right? Whereas for me, Steel, he's got to be a little bit more rugged, right? He's got to come from a bit more of a working class perspective. He's got to have some calluses on his hands, right? Mike Coulter, who played Luke Cage in Marvel in the Marvel series, and looks like he's not going to get much more love from Marvel in the near future. So he'll probably be looking for work. Has done I'm the working class superhero, and he's still taller than David Corrin Sweat. He's a little bit older than David Corrin Sweat, and I think he'll be able to still do the whole "I've been inspired by you, but I need to do my own thing as well." And I'll do my own thing.
He is bigger than Morris Chestnut as well.
Is he bigger? Is he?
He's huge.
Well, he does it
as Luke Cage. He was huge. So
this might, because we've gone down the same routes. We've gone down the same kind of way. You might have to go off your thing.
I'm quite persuaded, side, by your thinking about this, because I think in the origins, again, I think it's in Adventures of Superman. Was Steele's first appearance, which was after the death of Superman's storyline. There is something about him having that kind of working class origins, but also being incredibly bright.
Yeah.
Because obviously in the more modern comics, he's like a real inventor and like tech whiz, and I think he's playing a role in kind of protecting Metropolis from all sorts of different kind of evils. Morris Chestnut, I think I'm struggling just because the roles I've seen him in the past are so different. I mean, they're all actors, aren't they? So
true.
Who knows how far they can stretch? But I'm gonna give this one to Chug. So it's 1.5 each.
I don't hate that. Mike Coulter. He was in an episode of SVU where he plays an African refugee who keeps assaulting and then slitting the throats of children.
Okay.
So like, in terms of grizzle, that's obviously too far in the other direction, but he's clearly got range.
That's some strong grizzle. That's some real strong grizzle. The final ally we're going to do for Superman, before we maybe do a few villains, is probably the most out there one, and I'm not sure she'll ever actually appear. She makes things a little bit too messy in terms of a cohesive universe. But we have Power Girl, who's probably got the most convoluted origin and the most retconned origin in all of DC, I think it's fair to say. Where does she stand at the moment? Because she still has a line of comics coming out, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does, and I'm reading them at the moment. It's kind of... I think I've kind of lost track, because it's been retconned so many times. I don't actually know, but I know she's got some kind of, like, psychic kind of powers now.
She's got psychic powers now.
Into the mix.
Is she still from Krypton, from a different dimension, or is that out of the window as well?
Yeah, I think she's from somewhere different.
Oh, okay.
So that's the last one. Obviously, she's originally an Earth 2
something like that, yeah.
Hero, wasn't she? But she's now in this universe, because I think in the current storyline, she sometimes feels like she's a part of the family, but she's not a part of the family, if that makes sense, because she's not from that tight-knit kind of group. She's come from somewhere else. I have to try and find out where that actually is now. It's been so many different places over the years. But trying to find her place in the DC universe, and at present starting to warm up a little bit to the fact that the other members of the Superman family and Superman himself do want her as a part of it.
Okay. So I'm going to try and be as coy as possible here. My pick for Power Girl is an actress called Sydney Sweeney.
No.
I'm
gonna.
I don't know how I'm going to describe this.
Well, I'm going to stop you there, if that's okay.
Okay.
Because I have also picked Sydney Sweeney. So
I think our mind went to similar places.
So Sydney Sweeney, Power Girl is obviously known for being quite. The way she's depicted is very particular. Okay. And Sydney Sweeney, one of the things she's famous for is having that similar, very particular physique. So she's also relatively tall again. But my thinking
Did you say tall? Did you say she's relatively tall?
As well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but my thinking was, so they have casted Millie Alcock as Supergirl.
Okay.
And so if this is that she's, like Supergirl or an older version from a different dimension or whatever it is, or she's made herself look like Supergirl in her stead.
She could look like.
Well, that was my thinking.
Yeah.
So this is Millie Alcock from House of the Dragon.
And this is Sydney Sweeney.
So even though they're probably about 5 years apart in age, if you wanted to cast her as someone who is maybe 10, 12 years older than Millie Alcock is supposed to be, I also think that passes as well.
And the one of the reasons I chose her, because that's very valid, I didn't think about it that way. One of the reasons I chose her was because Power Girl is probably the most confusing character in Superman's kind of stratosphere. Sydney Sweeney's got a track record of actually showing a lot of love for very obscure characters.
Yes, she does.
So she was just in Madam Web, which I know you haven't seen and I know you never will. But in the press circuit and in the junkets, she actually knew who her character was, which is pretty impressive because no one else did. No one else knew who her character was or who knew what their characters were. And she actually put a lot of research in and she actually put a lot of effort into that role. So I think she's got a desire to be in superhero roles, regardless of how difficult they are to kind of understand their place in their world. She still puts 100% in. So I've got to credit her for that.
Okay.
So you got a nice easy decision.
Yeah, I'm going to say two things on this. Firstly, obviously, I've watched House of Dragons, and I've got to say, I'd never ever looked at Millie Alcock and thought, oh, she looks like Supergirl. She could be Supergirl
It's
one
true.
day.
Yeah.
So I'm still kind of wrapping my head around that a little bit. But obviously the Power Girl one, you both come up with Sydney Sweeney.
It's nice and easy.
And I do know her a little bit. I can't say I know loads for work or anything like that. I know her a little bit. And I could see that. I could see that, yeah.
That's a nice another draw then.
It's a handshake.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, let's get on to some villains. I feel like villains are more fun to cast. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think so. You need more. I feel like you need a bit more from an actor to be a convincing villain. So I'm happy with my picks. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I'm very happy with my picks.
There's okay. We'll get on to that one later. But this is an interesting one. I don't think they're going to do General Zod for a little while, but we're going to cast him anyway. So we've got General Zod. Who have you got for him, Judah?
So I'm gonna sort of preface this with a question. Do you watch The Boys, Dad?
I've watched bits of the first series.
Okay, then this is basically a long shot. So this is the villain from season 3. He's a character in season 3 of The Boys. This is Jensen Ackles. He's also in Supernatural. A ridiculously deep voice.
That's a good shout.
Has played physical roles. He actually is a very nice guy, but he looks deeply serious. His natural face is a frown. And in The Boys, he plays a character who is from the 40s. He's one of the original superheroes. He's a horrible bloke, but people still see him as a hero. And basically, they want him to kill Homelander. He's the only person who can. So it's kind of like you're kind of rooting for him, or you kind of understand his intentions, but you're under no illusion that he's anything other than a terrible bloke. And so that kind of motivations of the character, which the audience can sort of get behind, I think kind of works with Zod, because from a completely neutral standpoint, this guy kind of wants to restore his race, who, you know, unlike Superman, he has experienced his whole life with. But he is also an awful bloke. But, you know, at times in the comics, we've had to kind of, not align with Zod, but, you know, War of the Supermen, it's kind of like, oh, well, yeah, he's doing a horrible thing, but, you know, if you'd lost your whole race, maybe you'd kind of go off kilter a little bit. But yeah, that was my pick. Within watching him in The Boys especially, I think his voice, dastardly is what I describe it as.
It's true.
And it's about 5 octaves lower than any of ours. And I think he's 46 as well. And I think that's a pretty good age for someone who's supposed to be like the top military leader on their planet. And also has that sort of, I suppose, the aura of maturity over someone who would be 16 years his junior as well. So that was my pick.
Yeah. That is a good pick. And he has presence, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think General Zod needs presence. Okay. So I've gone about this a similar way. I've looked for similar characteristics as in someone who is wed to an old way of living and will do anything to kind of restore that way of living regardless of the new information in front of them. Has a presence, is very menacing. But I need you to stick with me on this, okay? So he became probably most famous via a meme. And I'm not even sure you've seen the meme, but I know you've seen the show that it came from, the meme. So you've watched The Good Doctor, right?
Yep.
I've gone with Daniel Day Kim, who was the Good Doctor's boss. Do you remember?
Yep.
And he was the one who, when the Good Doctor was screaming at him, he wouldn't shift, he wouldn't budge, right?
Oh, clever.
All right. So I'm going with the way that actually Superman's shown him a new way of living, a new world, and is trying to introduce him to a new way of thinking, and he will refuse to accept it. He's also been Fire Lord Ozai, who is not someone you'd be familiar with, but he's done the leader of a pretty evil group of people. All right. I think he's got the ability to be a proper villain. I haven't seen him do anything physically, like Jensen Ackles, to be fair.
He's in great shape though, isn't he?
But he looks in amazing shape, especially for his age. And I think his face will kind of be enough. His face will be enough to make him look menacing. I don't think he needs to be imposing on David Corenswet. I'm not sure if he's tallish or what. And he's also got a hell of a voice. Also got like a voice that makes you want to listen. I'd believe that he's someone who'd led a race of people at one point. So yeah, that would be my pick.
Okay, this is a tough one because I think you've both really tuned in to who Zod is. So at one level he's not evil, but he does evil things. So his pursuit of kind of Kryptonian purity and the re-establishment of like Krypton's rule and presence in the universe is just this overriding driver. And the closest he really ever gets to an alliance with Superman is a pretty kind of uneasy alliance. I can't remember the guy's name. Who played him in Man of Steel?
Michael Shannon.
He did it brilliantly.
Yeah,
although
he was good.
didn't look anything like Zod in my head, like the character that he plays and that kind of bristling evil commitment to something that you believe in, but if you look at it from a neutral perspective you kind of think, hold on a second.
I love the way he flips as well. I love the moment he realises, I'm actually not going to get it my own way, and that's when he kind of becomes unhinged, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really, he was awesome. He was awesome.
So, 2 good picks for this one. I'm going to give it to you, Chug, and I'm going to give it to you for the clever little bit of work you did about being unmoved by the Good
Okay.
Doctor and the
All right.
team that worked with the Good Doctors and all of the others, just holding firm. Even though I thought in the Good Doctor, in some ways he was holding firm for good reason.
Yeah.
But I think that's clever, so I'm gonna give it to both good picks actually.
Yeah.
Good work.
I don't think you can go wrong with that one.
Yeah, that was a good that.
I was really worried when you said that name because I thought I should have gone with that. I should have gone with that. That's good.
Now I feel like I awarded the points to the wrong person.
And we got one more villain who I have, you have, we've been on the pod on record saying many times that it's about time we see him in live action. He's probably one of the most interesting villains in the DC universe, against one of the top guys in the DC universe as well, and we've never seen him. It's about time that we get a good portrayal of Brainiac.
Oh yeah.
You started the last one, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So it's you two.
I don't know if you've heard previous episodes, but myself and third brother, we did a script that involved Brainiac. And we were thinking about who could do it just as an off the beat sort of thing. And we actually went with another superhero movie alumni. But a lot of it is based off a role he did in a Star Trek movie. So do you remember Star Trek, the reboot of Star Trek, the Chris Pine one?
Yeah.
I didn't realise it until years afterwards that the Romulan villain in that movie was played by Eric Bana. And I think Eric Bana did a really good job of looking good, bold and green, for one, which I think is a lot of my motivation here. But also, he's got a voice that I think will sound good with like a technological kind of reverb to it. I think his voice, another one is because Brainiac's got to rely on his voice quite a lot. And I think he's got the sort of voice that you listen to and actually kind of goes through you a little bit when it needs to. And he's shown in the past, obviously, that he can do the physical side of the role as well, if they want to do the physical Brainiac. He's a top actor who's been around for a long time. I think he's got the right face for it. And that's all I've got to go on, really. I just think he's just got the right face to shave his head off and go green and look a little bit like an alien at the right time. So,
Okay.
Can you picture him in your mind, or do you need a photo reference?
No, I know him. I know he is. Yeah.
Okay. So my pick. I was conflicted about this because I had him penned also for a different role, but I have gone with Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us, Waves.
Yeah, a few
So Sterling K. Brown is, if you just looked at his face, he could be quite menacing. In Invincible, he does the voice of Angstrom Levy, who is a multi-dimensional powered individual who's supposed to be like a genius as well. I think the way he speaks, his voice, his cadence is very intellectual and kind of cerebral, but it is also fantastically deep. And when I heard him in The Boys, I thought, oh wow, this is selling me as like an evil mastermind.
Yeah.
Even though he kind of, his intentions in The Boys is that he knows in other in other universes, Invincible can go bad. So he's actually technically a good guy, but he's just fighting the wrong version of Invincible for that. I think he is in unbelievable shape. He's very, very built. I don't know if you get to see much of that in This Is Us. But he does pure kinesthetics, and he's been doing it for over a decade now.
Yeah.
So I think if you wanted to do a more physical Brainiac, which we've been getting a lot more recently, you wouldn't have to CG him much. If you wanted to give Brainiac a more human look, you could just go with him. I think his face would pass. Or you could paint him green, but I think the voice, you could kind of use that as is. Or if you wanted to add, like you said, like a little bit of reverb to it and just a slight like overlay, I think his voice could still shine through even with enhancements. So that was my pick. I think it could be, even though he plays oftentimes a more warmer role, it could be a very, very cold Coloan. Is that what you'd call it? Someone from Coloan?
I think.
Yeah. Character. And, you know, he's just also a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And his range is brilliant. Although Brainiac isn't necessarily the deepest of characters when it comes to emotional depth. But if you wanted to do other iterations of Brainiac as well, like a Brainiac 2 or is it 5 in Legion of Superheroes? Yeah. You could age him up and do it like that because he can do good and bad. So.
Okay, so for this one, I'm just going to go with who can I see in that role, and I think I'm partly influenced by the image that's on the screen because obviously there's been quite a lot of different versions of Brainiac over the years. I think Sterling K. Brown I can see.
Yeah.
And he is in good shape. And in the same way that Josiah played an ace card by reminding me of one program that I really liked, then you've gone for another program that I really like.
Okay.
And yeah, it's interesting how you play Brainiac because, you know, pure cold logic and reason, but to the point where you can believe you're actually doing good by capturing parts of planets and worlds.
Preserving air quotes.
Yeah. I could just see Sterling K. Brown in that more.
Yeah, I the more you're describing it, the more I was like, yeah, actually, even with the prosthetics and whatnot, just his bone structure, just the way his body shape is, it hits the right mark for Brainiac. Yeah, that's great. Well, those were our Superman castings. Really. Was there anyone that you would like to see in the future for Superman?
A
Villain, ally. I mean, they've pretty much done every ally. They've even done Stephen Lombard on. Apparently, he's casted for Superman, so everyone's getting cast already.
Yeah, I said Ron Troop. They've really kind of gone through the ages, haven't they?
Yeah.
And picked on different people. No, I think that's quite interesting. I think kind of doing the Superman family, and if they are going to do more of that, I think it's a really good idea. Obviously, Steel has got a daughter.
Oh yeah.
Natasha.
Yeah.
Lyons, who kind of becomes a version of Steel, as well. No, to be honest, I'm just a little bit tired of Lex Luthor's. Superman's got such a rich array of like villains. I mean, Darkseid. It would be good to actually finally see Darkseid in a movie rather than staring through a portal, and then we're going to get to see the actual kind of big takedown. Mongol is an amazing villain as well, and like a real kind of physical kind of match for Superman.
Tale of Two Cities was a Tale of Two Titans. It's one of my favourite comics ever, actually, as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
That was a really good one.
Great. So, yeah, I just think use a bit more of the universe, because I think that the danger is if you keep repeating Superman v Lex Luthor, people who are not familiar with the character will think that's all he is and all he's about. Now, obviously, Lex Luthor's been around for a long time. He's a great Superman villain, but I think it's just been overdone. And I think it would just be more interesting to go to a broader array of like some of the people that we've just spoken about. Yeah.
No, I agree. Good and bad news, you know. That ended as a draw overall.
We'll take that. We're working our way up to a win.
We're getting close to a win here. We probably should have done an odd number of characters, maybe. I don't know, just to make sure.
Oh, we had two.
We had two draws, two wins, 2 losses each.
Yeah. So I don't mind it. I can live with that because the choices I lost out to, I was happy with. When Third Brother was in the mix, there were a couple where I did feel a bit hard done by, but I can accept this. I can accept this. So.
Well, in that case, I think we'll bring today's episode to a close. Then I think, things are looking great for the DC at the moment, and it's nice to see that there's still a buzz around Superman. I think we could have gone down a road recently where people just don't care about DC anymore. I mean, their track record's atrocious, so you would in terms of movies. But yeah, hopefully we can kind of see a movie that kind of returns on the hype, and fingers crossed.
Yeah, and if James Gunn is out there, and I know that the script's already written and it's well underway.
And stolen.
Just modernise it.
Yeah.
Modernise it. Don't. You know, I thought that Brandon Routh did a good Superman, but the story felt like they were trying to mirror too much of Christopher Reeve too late, if that makes sense. So my big hope for this is they kind of modernise it and don't try and do a shadow of Christopher Reeve thing. Just make it good, please.
All right, well, I think we'll leave that episode there then. Pleasure to have you, podcast Dan.
Thanks for having me.
Another time.
Pleasure. Well, until the next time then, guys.
Next time. Bye.